March 14th, 1943, 0300 hours, North Atlantic, 400 miles south of Iceland. Kapitänleutnant Werner Hartmann stood in the conning tower of U-306, watching through his binoculars as the American freighter broke apart. The ship's bow lifted skyward, water cascading from the hull as the stern settled deeper. 3 minutes since the torpedo impact. The freighter was going down. Hartmann had commanded U-306 for 11 months. This was his 23rd confirmed kill. 23 Allied ships sent to the bottom. 23 victories for the Kriegsmarine. His crew called him Eisenheart, Ironheart, because he never wasted torpedoes and he never missed opportunities. Tonight proved it again. 1 torpedo, 1 kill. Efficient warfare. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. The freighter's stern disappeared beneath. The waves at 0307 hours. The bow followed seconds later. Hartmann marked the position in his log. Another American merchantman destroyed. Another successful patrol. His executive officer, Oberleutnant Klaus Richter, climbed up beside him in the tower. Richter reported the torpedo room was reloading. 4 torpedoes remaining, 11 days left on patrol, fuel sufficient to reach Lorient. The boat was running well. Hartmann studied the sea where the freighter had been. Debris floated on the surface. Wooden crates, life preservers, oil spreading in dark patches. No survivors visible. The water temperature this far north in March was perhaps 4 degrees Celsius. A man would last maybe 15 minutes before hypothermia killed him. Hartmann felt nothing about that. War was war. The Americans bombed German cities. German submarines sank American ships. This was the exchange. What troubled Hartmann was not conscience but mathematics. U-306 had departed Lorient on February 23rd, 19 days at sea. During those 19 days, his boat had sunk 4 American freighters. Good numbers. Better than most U-boat commanders achieved in 1943. The problem was what had happened since 1942. The war was changing. Hartmann could feel it, even if he could not articulate it precisely. He had joined the U-boat service in 1939. The early war years were the golden time, die glückliche Zeit. U-boats operated with relative freedom. Allied convoy defenses were weak. American shipping traveled without escorts. A single U-boat could sink multiple targets in one night. Hartmann had sunk 7 ships during one patrol in 1941. 7 ships in 3 weeks. Those days were gone. Now Allied convoys travelled with strong escorts. Destroyers, corvettes, frigates, air cover when near land. Radar-equipped patrol aircraft that could detect surfaced U-boats from miles away. Depth charges that forced boats deep. New tactics called hunter-killer groups, where entire task forces hunted single submarines. The North Atlantic was becoming a graveyard for U-boats, not Allied shipping. The statistics told the story. Gross Admiral Karl Dönitz, commander of the U-boat force, required 300 operational boats to strangle British supply lines. Germany had never achieved that number. At the war's peak in 1942, maybe 120 boats were operational simultaneously. Now, in 1943, fewer than 100, and losses were increasing. Hartmann knew the numbers because U-boat commanders talked during shore leave in Lorient. They compared experiences, shared intelligence, calculated probabilities. Every patrol, approximately 1 in 4 boats, did not return. 25% loss rate per mission. The average U-boat commander completed 4 patrols before being killed or captured. The mathematics were simple and brutal. Hartmann had completed 11 patrols. He was living on borrowed time, but numbers on paper were abstract. What made the danger real was what Hartmann observed during each patrol. More Allied aircraft, better equipped escorts, faster response times when U-boats were detected. The Allies were learning, adapting, improving their defences faster than Germany could expand its U-boat fleet. The technological and tactical balance was shifting against the submarines. Richter asked if they should submerge. Dawn would arrive in 3 hours. Air patrols would begin shortly after sunrise. U-306 needed to dive and run deep before daylight exposed them. Hartmann agreed. They would remain on the surface another 30 minutes to clear the area, then submerge for daytime running. He ordered the watch to remain alert for additional targets or approaching escorts. The boat moved slowly westward, diesel engines rumbling. The sea was calm, unusual for North Atlantic in March. Visibility extended several miles under the clear night sky. Stars overhead, no moon. Perfect conditions for surface running. Hartmann swept his binoculars across the horizon, checking for other ships, watching for aircraft. The ocean appeared empty. 20 minutes later, the forward lookout reported contacts ahead. Multiple ships, formation pattern, estimated distance 8,000 meters. Hartmann focused his binoculars on the reported bearing. He saw them, ships silhouetted against the horizon. Many ships, a convoy. Hartmann counted contacts. 10, 12, 15 ships at least. Large convoy, heavily loaded, steaming east toward Britain. The formation appeared to be in columns, standard Allied convoy organization. Fast convoy probably, maybe 9 or 10 knots. Escorts would be present but difficult to spot at night. Hartmann calculated approach options. The traditional tactic was to surface ahead of the convoy, attack from darkness, then submerge. But Allied radar made that approach dangerous. Escorts could detect surfaced boats before visual contact. The alternative was to submerge now, maneuver underwater, attack from periscope depth. Slower approach, but safer. Hartmann chose the submerged approach. He ordered dive stations. U-306 descended. The crew moved through familiar routines. Hatches sealed, ballast tanks flooded, bow planes angled down. The boat settled to periscope depth, 18 meters. Electric motors engaged. Speed reduced to 4 knots. Silent running procedures initiated. Every unnecessary sound suppressed to avoid detection by Allied sonar. Hartmann raised the periscope. He could see the convoy clearly now. 15 merchantmen in 3 columns, 5 ships per column. All appeared to be large freighters, probably 7,000 to 10,000 tons each. Valuable targets. The escorts were visible too. 2 destroyers on the convoy's flanks, 1 corvette ahead. Standard defensive formation. The convoy was steaming at approximately 9 knots on a bearing of 075 degrees. Hartmann calculated intercept course. He needed to position U-306 ahead of the lead ships, then turn perpendicular and fire a spread of torpedoes down the convoy lanes. If executed properly, multiple hits were possible. Maybe 3 ships damaged or sunk. Good return for 4 remaining torpedoes. The approach took 90 minutes. U-306 moved slowly into position, watching through the periscope at intervals, avoiding detection. Hartmann felt the familiar tension building. Combat was moments of action surrounded by hours of preparation and waiting. The waiting produced stress that accumulated in your chest and stomach. Only action released it. At 0515 hours, U-306 reached attack position. Hartmann ordered tubes 1 through 4 prepared. The torpedo room reported ready. Hartmann raised the periscope for final targeting. The convoy was 800 meters away, optimal range. He selected targets. Lead ship in the center column, second ship in the starboard column, third ship in the port column. 3 targets, 4 torpedoes. Fire in sequence with 5-second intervals. Hartmann gave firing orders. Tube 1, fire. The boat shuddered slightly as compressed air expelled the torpedo. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. Tube 2, fire. Tube 3, fire. 4 torpedoes away, running depth 4 meters, speed 44 knots. Hartmann lowered the periscope and ordered deep dive. U-306 descended rapidly to 90 meters, turning away from the convoy at maximum safe speed. The torpedoes would reach their targets in approximately 90 seconds. Hartmann counted silently. The entire crew waited in silence, listening. At 95 seconds, the first explosion echoed through the hull. Dull, metallic boom transmitted through water. Second explosion at 100 seconds. Third at 105 seconds. 3 hits. Fourth torpedo either missed or malfunctioned. 3 out of 4 was excellent performance. Hartmann permitted himself brief satisfaction. 3 more American ships destroyed. 3 more victories. Then reality intruded. Depth charges. The escorts had located U-306's position and were attacking. The explosions came in patterns, 6 charges at a time, detonating above the boat at different depths. The hull shook with each detonation. Light bulbs shattered. Equipment rattled loose. Men grabbed handholds to stay upright. The depth charge attack continued for 3 hours. The escorts were methodical and persistent. They would drop a pattern, wait, listen with sonar, then drop another pattern. U-306 twisted and turned, trying to evade, trying to break sonar contact. Hartmann ordered the boat deeper, down to 130 meters, beyond safe operating depth. The hull creaked under pressure. Rivets popped. Small leaks developed that crew members plugged with wooden wedges and rags. At 0845 hours, the attack stopped. The escorts had lost contact or decided to rejoin the convoy. U-306 remained deep for another 2 hours, then slowly ascended to periscope depth. Hartmann checked the surface. Empty ocean. The convoy was gone. The escorts were gone. U-306 was alone. Hartmann ordered the boat to surface. They needed to ventilate, recharge batteries, assess damage, make repairs. The boat rose slowly. When the conning tower broke surface, Hartmann climbed up immediately, grateful for fresh air after hours of recycled atmosphere inside the pressure hull. The damage control officer reported minor leaks under control, batteries at 40% charge, no major equipment failures. The boat was operational. They had survived. 3 ships sunk, boat intact, crew alive. By any measure, a successful engagement. But Hartmann felt uneasy. The depth charge attack had been more intense than previous encounters. The escorts had better equipment, better training, better tactics. They had nearly found U-306 multiple times. Next patrol, or the patrol after, they might succeed. The margins were narrowing. Richter asked about course to Lorient. Hartmann checked their position. They were approximately 350 miles south of Iceland, 1,100 miles from Lorient. With remaining fuel, they could reach base if they encountered no additional contacts requiring high-speed maneuvering. Hartmann ordered course set for Lorient. The patrol was effectively over. Time to return home. The return voyage took 8 days. U-306 remained submerged during daylight, surfaced only at night to charge batteries and run on diesel engines. No additional attacks were attempted. Hartmann wanted his crew and boat to reach port safely. On March 22nd, U-306 entered Lorient Harbour at 1300 hours. The patrol had lasted 27 days. 4 ships sunk confirmed, possibly 3 more from the convoy attack. Hartmann would claim 7 ships. Reconnaissance would verify actual sinkings. Dönitz was waiting at the dock when U-306 tied up. The Gross Admiral personally greeted returning U-boat commanders, especially successful ones. Hartmann saluted and reported. 4 confirmed sinkings, estimated tonnage 32,000 tons. Dönitz congratulated him. Good patrol, aggressive tactics, professional execution. Hartmann received orders for 2 weeks shore leave, then return for briefing and next patrol assignment. That evening, Hartmann attended the officers' reception at the U-boat base. All returning commanders were required to attend. It was part propaganda, part morale building, part information sharing. The commanders drank French wine, ate decent food for the first time in weeks, and compared patrol experiences. The conversations always followed similar patterns. Who sank what, who encountered which escort tactics, who barely survived, who did not return. Hartmann talked with Korvettenkapitän Heinrich Lehmann-Willenbrock, commander of U-96. Lehmann-Willenbrock was more experienced than Hartmann, with 15 patrols completed. He spoke bluntly about what he observed. The war was turning against the U-boats. Allied defences were too strong. Losses were too high. Production could not replace destroyed boats. He estimated Germany would lose the tonnage war within 12 months. Hartmann asked what tonnage war meant. Lehmann-Willenbrock explained. The Battle of the Atlantic was not about sinking ships individually. It was about sinking ships faster than the Allies could build them. If U-boats destroyed more tonnage monthly than Allied shipyards produced, Britain would run out of supplies and surrender. If Allied shipyards produced more tonnage than U-boats destroyed, Britain would survive, and eventually Germany would lose. Everything came down to production rates versus sinking rates. The numbers were not favourable. Lehmann-Willenbrock had researched the statistics. In 1942, U-boats sank approximately 6 million tons of Allied shipping. Enormous number. Historic achievement. But Allied shipyards, primarily American yards, built approximately 7 million tons of new shipping that same year. Net gain for Allies, 1 million tons despite maximum U-boat effort. Hartmann absorbed this information. He had never considered the strategic mathematics. He focused on tactical execution, individual targets, patrol successes. The idea that his victories might be meaningless within larger strategic context had not occurred to him. Lehmann-Willenbrock continued. The trend was worsening. American shipyards were expanding production. New designs, faster construction methods, more yards opening. Meanwhile, U-boat losses were increasing, and production could not keep pace with replacements needed. Kapitän zur See Victor Schütze, one of the most decorated U-boat aces. Schütze had sunk over 30 ships during his career. He confirmed Lehmann-Willenbrock's assessment. The Americans were building ships at rates Germany could not match. He had seen intelligence reports about something called Liberty ships, American mass-produced freighters. Simple design, welded construction instead of riveted prefabricated sections assembled rapidly. Americans were building these ships in weeks instead of months. Hartmann asked how that was possible. Schütze explained. American industrial capacity was vastly larger than Germany's. American shipyards could work continuously without air raid interruptions. American factories had unlimited resources from secure domestic sources. American workers were well fed and motivated. The entire system was optimized for mass production. Germany could not compete with American industrial output. No European nation could. Schütze mentioned specific numbers that stunned Hartmann. American shipyards were launching new Liberty ships every few days from multiple yards. By late 1943, production would reach 3 ships per day, 100 ships per month, 1,200 ships per year. Even if U-boats maintained current sinking rates, which was unlikely given increasing losses, they could not sink ships faster than America built them. The conversation shifted to other topics, but Hartmann's mind remained fixed on what he had heard. 3 ships per day. He had spent 3 weeks at sea, risked his boat and crew, sunk 7 ships, and America had built 70 new ships during that same period. The mathematics were devastating. His victories were not victories. They were tactical successes within strategic failure. April 19, 1943, U-306 departed Lorient for its 12th patrol. Hartmann had spent 2 weeks on shore leave thinking about the conversation with Lehmann-Willenbrock and Schütze. He had requested access to intelligence reports about American shipbuilding. The reports confirmed everything. Liberty ship production was accelerating. American shipyards had delivered 240 ships in 1942. Projections for 1943 estimated over 1,000 ships. Hartmann did calculations in his notebooks during shore leave. Germany operated approximately 90 operational U-boats in the Atlantic. Each boat averaged perhaps 2 patrols per year due to transit times, refitting, and crew rest. Each patrol typically sank 3 to 5 ships. Multiply 90 boats by 2 patrols by 4 ships equals 720 ships sunk per year. American shipyards alone would deliver 1,000 new ships that same year. Soviet gain: 280 ships, despite Germany's maximum U-boat effort. Add British shipyards producing another 200 ships. Net Allied advantage: 480 new ships annually. The numbers made Hartmann's role clear. He was not winning the war. He was delaying Germany's defeat. Every ship he sank was replaced within days by American production. His crew risked death for tactical victories that produced no strategic advantage. The realization was crushing but undeniable. Mathematics did not lie. The patrol area assignment for this mission was northwest of Ireland, approximately 500 miles west of Scotland. The Allied convoy routes passed through that region. Hartmann's orders were standard: locate convoys, attack when possible, avoid unnecessary risks, return safely. Dönitz emphasized the last point repeatedly now. U-boat losses were becoming unsustainable. Commanders were instructed to preserve boats and crews, not sacrifice them for marginal victories. U-306 reached the patrol area on April 27th after 8 days' transit from Lorient. The first week on station was uneventful. No convoys spotted, no attacks conducted. The monotony of patrol life settled over the crew. Watch rotations, maintenance routines, meals, sleep, days blended together. Hartmann remained on the bridge during surface running, scanning the horizon, searching for targets that might not exist. On May 4th, reconnaissance aircraft reported a large eastbound convoy approaching from Newfoundland. Convoy designation HX-237. Approximately 60 merchant ships with strong escort. Dönitz ordered all available U-boats to form patrol line and engage. U-306 was one of 8 boats assigned to intercept. Hartmann calculated intercept position and set course. The convoy was massive when Hartmann first saw it through his binoculars on May 6th at dawn. He had never seen so many ships simultaneously. 4 columns stretching across miles of ocean. The merchant ships were all large, modern freighters. Most appeared identical. Same hull design, same superstructure, same profile. Hartmann realized he was looking at Liberty ships, American mass-produced freighters, dozens of them in one convoy. The escorts were equally impressive. Hartmann counted at least 10 destroyers, multiple corvettes, several frigates, air cover overhead from a long-range patrol aircraft. This convoy was too heavily defended for traditional Wolfpack tactics. Any U-boat attempting surface attack would be detected and destroyed quickly. Hartmann decided on cautious approach. Submerged stalking, single torpedo attack, immediate withdrawal. Survival was more important than sinking multiple targets. U-306 spent 12 hours maneuvering into attack position. The convoy maintained steady course and speed. The escorts patrolled systematically. Several times, destroyers passed directly over U-306's position, forcing the boat deep to avoid detection. The tension was constant. One sonar contact, one depth charge pattern, and the boat might be destroyed. At 1800 hours, Hartmann achieved firing position. He selected a Liberty ship in the center column, large target approximately 440 feet long, 7,000 tons displacement, range 600 meters, firing solution calculated. Hartmann ordered Tube 1, fire. The torpedo launched. He immediately ordered deep dive without waiting to observe results. U-306 descended rapidly to 120 meters. 90 seconds later, the explosion echoed through the hull. One hit confirmed, but immediately afterward came depth charges. Multiple escorts converging on U-306's position. The attack was intense and sustained. 36 depth charges in the first hour alone. The escorts knew U-306's approximate location and were determined to destroy it. Hartmann ordered the boat deeper, down to 150 meters, significantly beyond safe depth. The hull groaned under pressure. Leaks developed in multiple locations. The depth charge attack continued for 7 hours. It was the longest, most intense attack Hartmann had experienced. The escorts were relentless. They used advanced tactics, dropping charges in carefully calculated patterns designed to bracket the U-boat's probable location. Several charges detonated close enough to throw crew members against bulkheads. Equipment failures multiplied. The boat's gyro compass broke. One electric motor developed bearing failure. The main bilge pump stopped working. At 0100 hours, the attacks finally ceased. U-306 remained deep for another 3 hours, then cautiously rose to periscope depth. Hartmann checked the surface. The convoy was gone, but multiple escorts remained in the area, searching. He could see at least 3 destroyers circling, dropping occasional depth charges on suspected contacts. U-306 could not surface safely. Hartmann ordered the boat to remain at periscope depth and creep away at minimum speed. By 0800 hours, they had cleared the immediate danger area. Hartmann surfaced briefly to assess damage and ventilate the boat. The damage control report was concerning. Both electric motors required repair. The gyro compass was destroyed. One ballast tank had stress cracks and was leaking. Refrigeration system failed. Food would spoil within days. The boat was combat ineffective and needed to return to Lorient immediately for repairs. But what struck Hartmann most powerfully was not the damage to his boat. It was what he had seen through the periscope during the engagement. The convoy had continued moving east without pause after his torpedo hit the Liberty ship. One ship sunk, 59 ships continuing. The convoy had not stopped, had not scattered, had not altered course significantly. The loss of one ship was irrelevant to the convoy's mission. The formation simply closed ranks and proceeded. Hartmann realized he was witnessing industrial warfare at a scale Germany could not match. That convoy represented approximately 400,000 tons of shipping. His single torpedo had destroyed 7,000 tons. He had eliminated less than 2% of the convoy's cargo capacity, and this was just one convoy. Intelligence reported convoys departing North America every few days. Multiple convoys crossing the Atlantic simultaneously. Millions of tons of supplies flowing to Britain continuously. The return voyage to Lorient took 11 days. U-306 limped home, running submerged during daylight, surfacing only at night for battery charging. The crew was exhausted and demoralized. They had risked death for 7 hours to sink one ship. Everyone understood the mathematics now. One ship sunk meant nothing when 59 ships completed their journey. U-306 entered Lorient on May 18, 1943. The patrol had lasted 29 days. One ship confirmed sunk, boat heavily damaged, crew intact but shaken. Dönitz was not at the dock this time. A junior staff officer greeted Hartmann with orders to report for debriefing immediately. The atmosphere at the U-boat base had changed. The celebrations were gone. The confident swagger of early war years had evaporated. Officers spoke quietly, avoided eye contact, moved through their duties mechanically. The debriefing lasted 3 hours. Intelligence officers questioned Hartmann about convoy size, escort composition, tactics observed, weapons used against his boat. They were particularly interested in depth charge patterns and escort coordination. Hartmann answered all questions factually. At the end, the senior intelligence officer asked Hartmann's assessment of current operational conditions. Hartmann was blunt. The Allies had achieved tactical and technological superiority. U-boats could no longer operate effectively against strongly defended convoys. Losses would continue increasing until the U-boat force ceased to exist as an effective combat arm. The intelligence officer thanked Hartmann for his candor and dismissed him. That evening, Hartmann was summoned to meet privately with Dönitz. The Gross-Admiral received him in a small office, away from the main headquarters, no staff officers present. Dönitz gestured for Hartmann to sit and poured 2 glasses of cognac. They drank in silence for a moment. Then Dönitz spoke. He told Hartmann that May 1943 had been catastrophic for the U-boat force. 41 boats lost during the month, 41 crews dead or captured, over 2,000 men killed. The loss rate was unsustainable. German shipyards could not replace 40 boats per month. Training facilities could not replace 2,000 experienced submariners. The U-boat force was being destroyed faster than it could be rebuilt. Dönitz explained that he had requested permission from Hitler to withdraw U-boats from the North Atlantic temporarily. Regroup, refit with new equipment, develop new tactics. Hitler had refused initially, but finally relented after seeing the casualty figures. Effective June 1st, U-boat operations in the North Atlantic would be suspended. The boats would redeploy to less defended areas: Central Atlantic, South Atlantic, Indian Ocean, areas where Allied defences were weaker. Dönitz acknowledged this was defeat disguised as tactical repositioning. The entire U-boat strategy depended on strangling British supply lines by sinking ships in the North Atlantic faster than they could be replaced. If U-boats could not operate in the North Atlantic, they could not win the tonnage war. And without winning the tonnage war, Germany would lose the Battle of the Atlantic. And without winning the Battle of the Atlantic, Germany would eventually lose World War II. Hartmann asked why they continued fighting if defeat was inevitable. Dönitz's answer was simple. They were soldiers. They followed orders. They did their duty regardless of probable outcome. The alternative was surrender, and surrender was unacceptable while Germany still possessed the means to resist. U-boats would continue operating until ordered to cease. Crews would continue fighting until they were dead or captured. That was what honor required. Hartmann returned to his quarters that night and wrote in his private journal. He described the conversation with Dönitz, the casualty figures, the strategic reality. He wrote that he was participating in a war Germany had already lost but refused to admit. Every patrol from now until war's end would be sacrifice without purpose. He was being ordered to lead his crew to probable death for a cause that was mathematically doomed. The next morning, Hartmann received his new patrol orders. U-306 would undergo extensive repairs for 6 weeks. After repairs, the boat would redeploy to the Central Atlantic, operating southwest of the Azores. The area was less defended but also had fewer targets. Sinking opportunities would be minimal. The patrol was effectively punishment duty, busy work to keep boats and crews occupied while avoiding the high-casualty North Atlantic operations. During the 6-week repair period, Hartmann requested permission to visit the intelligence section and review classified reports about Allied shipbuilding. Permission was granted. He spent 3 days reading documents. What he learned was even worse than he had imagined. American shipbuilding had achieved industrial scale beyond anything in human history. The Liberty ship program was producing cargo vessels at rates that defied comprehension. The ships were designed by American maritime engineer William Francis Gibbs and other naval architects. Standard design, 441 feet long, 57 feet wide, displacement 10,500 tons fully loaded, cargo capacity 9,000 tons, speed 11 knots, simple triple expansion steam engine, oil-fired boilers, crew complement approximately 45 men. The construction method was revolutionary. Ships were built in sections at multiple locations, then transported to shipyards for final assembly. Welding replaced traditional riveting, reducing construction time and labor requirements. Standardized parts meant components were interchangeable between different ships. The entire process was optimized for speed and volume. The first Liberty ship, SS Patrick Henry, was launched in September 1941. By December 1941, 8 American shipyards were producing Liberty ships. By mid-1942, 18 shipyards. Production accelerated throughout 1943. The fastest construction time achieved was 4 days 15 hours for SS Robert E. Peary, launched in November 1942. Most ships required approximately 42 days from keel laying to launch. Hartmann calculated the implications. 42 days per ship, multiple ships under construction simultaneously at each yard, 18 yards operating. The production pipeline was enormous. At any given moment, hundreds of Liberty ships were under construction. The American shipbuilding industry was delivering approximately 3 Liberty ships per day by mid-1943. 90 ships per month, 1,080 ships per year, each ship carrying 9,000 tons of cargo. The total annual cargo capacity being added to Allied shipping was staggering. 1,080 ships times 9,000 tons equals 9,720,000 tons of new cargo capacity annually. U-boats had sunk approximately 6 million tons of Allied shipping in 1942, their most successful year. American Liberty ships alone replaced that entire loss with 3 million tons surplus. Add British, Canadian, and other Allied shipbuilding, and the disparity became overwhelming. But the intelligence reports contained something even more disturbing. Liberty ships were just one American shipbuilding program. The Americans were simultaneously building Victory ships, faster cargo vessels with turbine engines. They were building 2 tankers to transport oil. They were building escort carriers, destroyers, destroyer escorts, landing craft, troop transports. The entire American shipbuilding industry was operating maximum capacity across multiple programs simultaneously. One document included a quote from American industrialist Henry Kaiser, whose shipyards produced Liberty ships faster than any competitor. Kaiser had stated publicly that American shipyards would build ships faster than Germany could sink them. He had told reporters that industrial production would decide the war's outcome, and America's industrial capacity exceeded Germany's by factors of 10 or more in critical categories. Hartmann found another document comparing American and German industrial production across multiple categories. Steel production. America produced 80 million tons annually, Germany 20 million tons. Aluminum production. America 800,000 tons annually, Germany 240,000 tons. Oil production. America 180 million tons annually, Germany 6 million tons plus imports. The disparities were consistent across every category. America simply possessed vastly larger industrial capacity than Germany. The final document Hartmann read was an analysis prepared by German naval intelligence, estimating probable war outcomes based on production trends. The analysis concluded that Germany could not win a prolonged industrial war against the combined Allied powers. American, British, and Soviet industrial production collectively exceeded German production by approximately 10-1. Germany's only chance for victory had been rapid military conquest before Allied industrial advantages could be mobilized. That chance ended when Germany failed to defeat the Soviet Union in 1941 and when America entered the war in December 1941. Hartmann closed the files and returned to his quarters. He now understood completely. Germany was fighting an unwinnable war. Every U-boat patrol, every torpedo fired, every ship sunk was tactically irrelevant within the strategic context. American shipyards were building 3 new cargo ships daily. A successful U-boat patrol might sink 4 or 5 ships in 3 weeks. During those same 3 weeks, American shipyards delivered 63 new ships. German victories were meaningless when measured against Allied industrial production. The psychological impact was devastating. Hartmann had been trained to view warfare as combat between opposing forces where skill, courage, and tactical excellence determined outcomes. But this war was not decided by combat. It was decided by factories, shipyards, oil wells, steel mills, and agricultural production. The side with larger industrial capacity would eventually overwhelm the side with smaller capacity, regardless of tactical performance. Germany lacked the resources to win an industrial war against America, Britain, and the Soviet Union simultaneously. June 27, 1943. U-306 departed Lorient for its 13th patrol. Destination: Central Atlantic, operating area southwest of the Azores. The voyage out was uneventful. No contacts, no engagements. The Atlantic felt empty. Hartmann later learned why. Allied convoys were now so heavily defended that U-boats avoided them. The boats hunted for isolated merchantmen traveling independently, but most ships now traveled in convoys specifically to avoid submarines. The hunting had become nearly impossible. U-306 reached its assigned patrol area in mid-July. The crew spent 3 weeks on station without sinking a single ship. They spotted occasional aircraft, saw distant smoke from passing convoys, but never achieved firing position on any target. The patrol was futile, boring, and depressing. On August 5th, Dönitz ordered U-306 to return to Lorient. The patrol had lasted 39 days. 0 ships sunk, 0 attacks conducted, complete tactical failure. The return voyage took 12 days. On August 17th, U-306 was 200 miles west of France when Allied aircraft detected the boat on surface. Hartmann was on the bridge when the lookout spotted the plane. American B-24 Liberator bomber, approaching fast at low altitude. Hartmann ordered crash dive. The crew executed the procedure perfectly. The boat was submerging when the aircraft dropped 4 depth charges. 2 charges exploded close aboard, 1 to port, 1 to starboard. The explosions were catastrophic. The pressure hull ruptured in 3 locations. Water flooded into the control room and engine room simultaneously. The boat lost all electrical power immediately. Emergency lighting activated briefly, then failed. Complete darkness. Men screamed. Water rose rapidly. Hartmann ordered emergency surface. The boat was sinking. They had seconds to reach surface or die. U-306 somehow struggled to surface. The ballast tanks still had compressed air. The boat broke through at a steep angle, bow high, stern under water. Hartmann opened the conning tower hatch. Water poured in, but air pressure kept most water out. He ordered abandon ship. The crew scrambled out of the sinking submarine, 47 men. They jumped into the ocean wearing life vests, swimming away from the boat. U-306 sank stern first at 1300 hours on August 17, 1943. The boat went down in less than 3 minutes. Hartmann watched from the water as his command disappeared. 11 patrols, 24 confirmed sinkings, 13 months of combat operations, gone. The aircraft circled overhead but did not attack the survivors. American aircraft doctrine prohibited attacking shipwreck survivors. After 30 minutes, the plane departed. The 47 survivors floated in the Atlantic, waiting for rescue or death. The water temperature was perhaps 15 degrees Celsius. They could survive maybe 6 hours before hypothermia killed them. Allied ships appeared 3 hours later, 2 British destroyers, investigating the aircraft report. The destroyers picked up all 47 survivors. Not one man was lost. The British treated them correctly under Geneva Convention. They were given warm clothing, hot food, medical attention for minor injuries. Hartmann was separated from his crew and questioned briefly. Name, rank, unit. He provided the required information, nothing else. That evening, Hartmann stood on the destroyer's deck, watching the sun set over the Atlantic. He was a prisoner of war. His combat career was over. His crew was safe. His boat was gone. He felt relief more than anything else. Relief that he would not die. Relief that his men would not die. Relief that he would never again have to fight a war he knew Germany could not win. The British transferred Hartmann and his crew to a prisoner of war camp in Scotland 3 days later. The camp was called Camp 18, located near the town of Featherstone Park. It held approximately 1,000 German prisoners, mostly U-boat crews and Luftwaffe aircrew shot down over Britain. The conditions were safe, adequate. Barracks heated, food sufficient, medical care available. Nothing luxurious, but nothing brutal. The British followed Geneva Convention protocols. Hartmann spent his first week in camp processing the reality of his situation. He was 29 years old. He had spent 4 years fighting a war. He had survived when statistics said he should have died. Now he would spend the remainder of the war behind barbed wire, alive, safe, irrelevant. The psychological adjustment was difficult. Warriors do not easily accept removal from combat, even when combat was futile. The camp held numerous U-boat commanders. They gathered naturally, forming informal groups, discussing their experiences. The conversations revealed patterns. Most commanders had similar stories: increasing Allied defences, decreasing German effectiveness, rising casualties, mathematical certainty of defeat. Every experienced commander understood that Germany was losing the Battle of the Atlantic. The question was not if but when the U-boat force would be completely destroyed. One commander, Korvettenkapitän Erik Topp, had sunk 34 ships during his career. Topp was one of the most successful U-boat aces. He told Hartmann that tactical excellence was irrelevant when strategic conditions made victory impossible. A chess grandmaster cannot win a game if his opponent has 3 queens and he has 1 pawn. Material advantage determines outcomes regardless of skill. Germany was playing with 1 pawn against Allied industrial power that fielded 3 queens. British intelligence officers interrogated Hartmann multiple times during his first months in captivity. The interrogations were professional, not brutal. The officers asked about U-boat tactics, technology, radio procedures, bases, supply systems. Hartmann provided minimal information, mostly technical details that British intelligence already knew. He refused to discuss operational matters or intelligence that might harm German forces still fighting. But one British interrogator was different. A naval intelligence commander named Roger Wynne, who ran the Royal Navy's U-boat tracking room. Wynne did not want tactical information. He wanted Hartmann's personal assessment of German strategic prospects. Wynne explained that British intelligence already knew most operational details. What they needed to understand was German morale, command thinking, psychological state of the U-boat force. Hartmann initially refused to answer. Wynne did not press. Instead, he shared information with Hartmann. He showed him charts displaying Allied shipping losses versus Allied shipbuilding production. The charts visualized what Hartmann already knew intellectually. U-boats had sunk 6 million tons of Allied shipping in 1942. Allied shipyards had built 8 million tons that same year. In the first half of 1943, U-boats had sunk approximately 2 million tons. Allied shipyards had built 5 million tons during that same period. Wynne explained that the Battle of the Atlantic had reached its turning point in May 1943. That month, U-boat losses became unsustainable. Dönitz withdrew boats from the North Atlantic. After May, Allied shipping losses declined dramatically while Allied shipbuilding production continued accelerating. The gap was widening. By late 1943, Allied shipping tonnage was increasing by approximately 3 million tons per month. U-boats were sinking perhaps 300,000 tons per month. 10-to-1 advantage favouring the Allies. Wynne showed Hartmann photographs of American shipyards. The images were reconnaissance photos taken by British intelligence agents. They showed Kaiser's Richmond shipyard in California, multiple Liberty ships under construction simultaneously, massive cranes moving prefabricated hull sections, thousands of workers swarming over the vessels. The scale was industrial, not artisanal. Shipbuilding had been transformed from craft production to mass manufacturing. One photograph showed 18 Liberty ships at various stages of construction in a single shipyard on a single day. Hartmann stared at the image for a long time. He had spent 11 patrols, risked his life repeatedly, watched crew members die, sunk 24 ships. This one American shipyard was building 18 ships simultaneously, would launch them all within weeks, and would immediately begin building 18 more. His entire combat career was rendered meaningless by what this single shipyard could produce in 2 months. Wynne asked Hartmann when he realized Germany would lose the war. Hartmann answered honestly. March 1943, when he learned about Liberty ship production rates. That was the moment he understood that tactical victories could not overcome strategic industrial disadvantage. Mathematics determined the outcome. America could produce ships faster than Germany could sink them. Industrial capacity exceeded military capability. Therefore, Germany would lose. Wynne thanked Hartmann for his candor. He said most German prisoners reached the same conclusion eventually. Some accepted it immediately. Others denied it for months or years, but ultimately, everyone confronted the same reality. Germany had challenged opponents with combined industrial power 10 times larger. The outcome was predetermined once America and the Soviet Union entered the war. German tactical excellence merely delayed inevitable defeat. Hartmann spent the next 2 years in Camp 18. The war continued. News filtered into the camp through official channels and secret radio receivers prisoners built from scrounged parts. The war news was consistently bad for Germany. The Eastern Front collapsed. The Western Front collapsed. German cities were bombed into rubble. The U-boat force was systematically destroyed. By May 1945, fewer than 30 operational U-boats remained from a force that once numbered nearly 400 boats. Germany surrendered unconditionally on May 8, 1945. Hartmann heard the news in the camp during morning roll call. The war was over. Germany had lost. 6 years of fighting, 60 million dead worldwide, 12 million Germans killed, the nation destroyed. And for what? Territorial expansion that lasted 3 years before being reversed. Racial policies that murdered millions and left permanent moral stain. Military adventures that ended in complete defeat. Hartmann was released from British custody in January 1947. He returned to Germany, found his family intact, and resumed civilian life. He never spoke publicly about his U-boat experiences. When asked, he said simply that he had done his duty as a soldier and was grateful to have survived. He did not attend U-boat veteran reunions. He did not join veteran organizations. He wanted to forget the war. But Hartmann continued thinking about what he had learned during those years. The war had been decided by industrial production, not military prowess. The side with larger factories won. The side with more shipyards won. The side with greater steel production won. Combat was theatre performed within constraints established by industrial capacity. Germany lost because Germany lacked resources to sustain modern industrial warfare against opponents who possessed those resources in abundance. The statistics confirmed this analysis. During World War II, the United States built 2,710 Liberty ships. Total production: 29 million tons of cargo capacity from Liberty ships alone. Additional Victory ships, tankers, and other cargo vessels added millions more tons. Total American merchant shipbuilding during the war exceeded 40 million tons. British shipbuilding added another 8 million tons. Combined Allied merchant shipbuilding, approximately 50 million tons. German U-boats sank approximately 3,000. Allied merchant ships during the entire war. Total tonnage sunk, approximately 14 million tons. Allied shipbuilding exceeded U-boat sinking by 36 million tons. Every ship Germany destroyed was replaced by 3 new ships. The tonnage war was never close. Germany lost decisively. The human cost was equally one-sided. Germany built 1,162 U-boats during the war. 785 were lost to enemy action. 30,000 German submariners served in U-boats. 28,000 were killed or missing. Casualty rate, 75%. The U-boat force suffered higher casualties than any other branch of the German military. They fought with extraordinary courage and skill. They achieved tactical victories, and they accomplished nothing strategically. Hartmann understood this completely by the time he was released from captivity. He had participated in a campaign that was doomed from the beginning. The U-boat offensive could not succeed because Germany lacked the industrial capacity to sink ships faster than America built them. Every patrol was sacrifice without purpose. Every victory was reversed within days by American production. The entire strategic concept was fatally flawed. American Liberty ships symbolized Allied industrial superiority. They were not elegant vessels. They were not fast, or comfortable, or beautiful. They were simple, functional, mass-produced cargo carriers designed for single purpose, delivering supplies across the Atlantic. And they performed that purpose brilliantly. Liberty ships carried the tanks, trucks, aircraft, ammunition, food, fuel, and equipment that sustained Allied forces in Europe. They transported the industrial output that crushed Germany under weight of material. One Liberty ship could carry 9,000 tons of cargo. One convoy of 60 Liberty ships could carry 540,000 tons. America sent convoys across the Atlantic continuously throughout the war. By 1944, convoys departed American ports every few days. The flow of supplies never stopped. Britain received everything needed to continue fighting. Soviet Union received everything needed to drive Germany from Russian territory. Allied forces in France received everything needed to advance into Germany. German forces, meanwhile, suffered chronic shortages of everything: fuel, ammunition, food, spare parts, medical supplies. The Eastern Front consumed resources faster than German industry could produce them. The Western Front created additional demands that could not be met. German soldiers fought with obsolete equipment, inadequate supplies, and diminishing hope. Industrial production constrained military operations. Lack of fuel immobilized tank divisions. Lack of ammunition restricted artillery fire. Lack of food weakened soldiers physically. The contrast between Allied abundance and German scarcity determined the war's outcome as surely as any battle. Superior. Allied industrial production enabled sustained military operations that Germany could not match. American factories produced 300,000 aircraft during the war. German factories produced 120,000. American factories produced 88,000 tanks. German factories produced 46,000. American factories produced 2 million trucks. German factories produced 350,000. Every category showed similar disparities. Hartmann had witnessed this disparity personally. He had sunk American Liberty ships and watched 60 more ships continue past. He had attacked convoys knowing replacements would arrive within days. He had fought escorts equipped with technology Germany could not produce in sufficient quantities. He had survived depth charges manufactured in American factories that operated continuously without bombing interruptions. The war was industrial warfare. The side with larger industry won. The lesson was clear but bitter. Military skill could not overcome industrial disadvantage. Tactical excellence could not compensate for strategic resource scarcity. Individual courage could not defeat mass production. Germany lost World War II because Germany challenged opponents whose combined industrial power exceeded German capacity by factors of 10 or more. The outcome was mathematically certain once those opponents mobilized their full industrial strength. Hartmann lived until 1983. He died quietly in Hamburg at age 69. His obituary mentioned his U-boat service briefly. It did not mention that he had sunk 24 Allied ships or that he had been one of Germany's more successful U-boat commanders. Those achievements, which had seemed so important during the war, meant nothing in retrospect. He had been a tactical instrument in a strategic failure. His victories were erased by American shipyards before he returned to port. The last U-boat patrol of World War II occurred on May 4, 1945, 4 days before German surrender. The boat was U-254, commanded by Oberleutnant Hans-Joachim Haas. The patrol lasted 6 hours. The boat encountered no targets, conducted no attacks, achieved nothing. Haas received orders to return to base. Germany surrendered before U-254 reached port. The boat surfaced, raised a black flag of surrender, and proceeded to Bergen, Norway, under Allied control. The crew became prisoners of war. That final patrol symbolized the entire U-boat campaign. Brave men, sophisticated technology, professional tactics, all deployed in service of strategy that could not succeed. Germany could not win the tonnage war. American industrial production exceeded German military destruction by insurmountable margins. Every Liberty ship launched represented German strategic defeat. Every convoy that reached Britain represented Allied strategic victory. Industrial capacity determined outcomes. Everything else was theatre. Werner Hartmann understood this truth earlier than most U-boat commanders. He saw the evidence in March 1943 and accepted the implications immediately. His remaining patrols were service rendered to a lost cause. He did his duty knowing it was futile. He led his men knowing they would probably die for nothing. He fought battles he knew were meaningless within larger strategic context. And when he was captured in August 1943, he felt relief that the futility had ended. The Battle of the Atlantic was decided by shipyards, not submarines. American Liberty ships did not win dramatic tactical victories. They simply appeared in numbers that made German tactical victories irrelevant. 3 ships per day, 90 per month, 1,000 per year. Steady, relentless, overwhelming industrial production that Germany could not match or counter. The ships carried the supplies that won the war. The factories that built the ships represented power that could not be destroyed by torpedoes or defeated by military force. Hartmann sank 24 ships. America built 2,710 Liberty ships. The mathematics were brutally simple. German tactical excellence was meaningless against American industrial capacity. The U-boat commanders were skilled warriors fighting an unwinnable war. They were chess grandmasters playing with 1 pawn against 3 queens. Courage and skill could delay defeat, but could not prevent it. Industrial production determined the outcome. America had factories. Germany had submariners. Factories won. That was the lesson Werner Hartmann carried for 40 years after the war ended. He had participated in history's greatest submarine campaign and achieved nothing strategically. His victories were tactical illusions erased by industrial reality. He had risked death repeatedly to sink ships that were replaced before he returned to port. He had fought bravely and skillfully in service of strategy doomed by mathematical certainty. The war taught him that industrial capacity determines outcomes in modern warfare. Military forces matter, but factories matter more. American Liberty ships represented that truth. Simple, functional, mass-produced vessels that crushed German U-boat offensive through sheer numerical superiority. Not one ship was remarkable, but 2,710 ships were unstoppable. That was the power of industrial production. That was why Germany lost. That was why Hartmann's victories meant nothing. Mathematics decided the war. America produced more than Germany could destroy. Therefore, America won. The conclusion was inescapable. The evidence was overwhelming. The lesson was clear. Werner Hartmann learned that lesson in March 1943 when he discovered that American shipyards were launching 3 Liberty ships per day. Everything after that moment was epilogue. His remaining patrols, his capture, his imprisonment, his survival, all epilogue to the central revelation. Germany had lost the Battle of the Atlantic because Germany challenged opponents whose industrial power made military victory impossible. He had fought bravely. He had commanded skillfully. He had achieved tactical success. And none of it mattered because American factories built ships faster than German submarines could sink them. That was the war. That was the truth. That was what Werner Hartmann understood and carried silently for 40 years, until his death in 1983. He had been a warrior in an industrial war. Warriors could not win when opponents controlled the factories. Industrial capacity determined outcomes. Everything else was courage expended in service of predetermined defeat. The U-boat campaign was Germany's longest continuous military operation of World War II. It was also Germany's most futile. Every torpedo fired at a Liberty ship was answered by 3 more Liberty ships launching from American yards. The mathematics were decisive. The outcome was certain. Germany lost. Thank you for watching. For more detailed historical breakdowns, check out the other videos on your screen now and don't forget to subscribe.